What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the first live stream of 2025. I took a little break at the tail end of 2024 to focus on all the big Oscar movies everybody was talking about and all the holiday releases. And of course, the holidays in general, getting schedules with people going on vacations. Not a good time. So we are bringing it back. And before we get back to the Disney movies that we were in the middle of covering, I thought it'd be fun to have two of the guests that were part of those videos to join me to have a very serious discussion I've wanted to have on this channel for quite some time. I'm very happy to have D Movieman and Mike of Did You See That? And I want to make it clear that I chose these two individuals because they are probably the two people on YouTube that I have spoken the most to in terms of my personal discouragement, ups and downs, and let me be completely frank, because this is going to be a vulnerable conversation. These two have been there for me in a lot of really down moments where I've said very negative things about my channel, about myself, and they've opened up to me about their own outlooks. But I honestly owe so much to these two as far as just listening, never judging, and always having things to say that are positive. I've received 10, 15, 20-minute long messages from Mike before, just with nothing but encouragement and just and kind words and honest truths about myself too, not just the fluff pieces or like blowing smoke up my ass. Honest truths. I've had D literally tell me, call me right now because I need to talk to you and where you are in your mental state. So these are two great friends that have honestly really been there for me. So thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to talk. And yeah, we're going to talk about the ups and downs of running small YouTube channels. We all have channels that are under 10,000 subscribers. And in this world of, we all talk specifically about movies, but in this world of growing a channel, the numbers can get in your head, the subscriber growth, and these things can affect how you approach things. There's obviously wins we've all had. We've had losses. So I actually want to start this off a little bit more with more of a general question, because I think at the end of the day, we all started this with a passion for something, right? So D, I'll start with you. We've all talked about this when I've had you guys on for individual streams, but what was it that inspired you to start the YouTube channel that you have currently, D Movieman? By the way, the links to both of these fantastic channels are down below in the description box, so go give them some love. But what inspired you to start your YouTube channel? What were your goals starting out? And what kind of journey do you feel like you've had thus far?
Ooh, okay. Well, first, thank you so much for having me on, and everything you've said, I think Mike would agree with this, but it's just like, it's par for the course when it comes to actually being a friend, a true friend, dedicated friend, and when you have people who are part of your community that you really connect to in a way that goes beyond the platform, then that's just what you would expect. So I appreciate it, but it's like, I don't think it's not even like a big thing for either of us. It's just like, that's just what we're doing as friends. So right. Definitely appreciate that. But as far as my channel, I think what I've talked about before is how, I want to say at the very least, I would say probably going into college, I've always been someone who's talked about movies and having the opportunity to do that amongst, because high school, middle school, totally different situation. But college, it was like, the opportunities I had to kind of talk about that, starting, a written blog and doing things like that. And even that was something that people encouraged me to do. So I think people recognized that I had an appreciation and a fondness for movies. And, people would keep saying like, oh, maybe you should do YouTube. Maybe you should do YouTube. And as I've also said before, YouTube was very different back then. I think you could only do up to maybe 15-minute videos. It's not like how it is now. A lot of a lot of the changes and a lot of the differences in how the platform is, I was worried about, talking too much. That's something I still worry about today, but I was worried about talking too much because I was like, 15 minutes, I don't know if I'm going to cap it at 15 minutes. And then I'm worried about fair use, copyright. I don't want to just sit on the camera and just talk. It's something I still struggle with to an extent, sometimes with over editing and not knowing when to just let my commentary be the focus versus the editing. But all those things, even back then, were in my head. And I was just like, who's going to really care? Who's going to really listen? Like, there are a lot of things I did in my mind to kind of discourage myself from pushing forward. And I purposely threw myself into projects and doing things for other people. Like, as far as videography, people had blogs or people had YouTube channels that they wanted to start. I would purposely throw myself into that. So it was years before I actually just said, this is something I should do. And even as we got to 2018, 2019, I kept circling. I finally did make the, I want to say I probably finally made an actual YouTube account with this name in maybe 2019, possibly. I'd have to go back and look. But it wasn't until 2020, in the midst of a very unique time for all of us, that I decided, like, okay, I don't think I have any more excuses. I don't, there's what else is there to do? So I was like, let me finally go ahead and push through and do this. And honestly, my goal, especially, and honestly, what finally encouraged me to do it, besides the circumstances, I remember seeing a post on Facebook. It's one of those posts you see all the time, like one of those meme type things, but it was, or one of those like message meme posts or something like that. And it said, you know, dedicate the next, I don't know, 6 to 9 months, something like that, to your goals. Like, you know, set your goal in mind, you know, whatever it is you want to do, talk about it. Don't, you know, reach out, don't get feedback on it, just do it. So I was just like, well, if I'm going to do this whole YouTube thing, then I should probably just do it and get comfortable with it, acclimate myself to that. And for the next however many months, I started in May, I believe, of 2020. I have to go back and look at my first video, but I believe it was around May 2020. And so I was just like, okay, I'm going to just upload videos. I started with the series Insecure, created by Issa Rae. I was like, let me get comfortable talking about a show I like. Let me get comfortable with the camera. Initially, it was, as I've said this before also, I wasn't going to be on camera. It was just going to be voice over only. I'm like, okay, cool, that's easy. When I realized how much editing I had to do, because I am an over editor, to just compensate for all the time, I was like, no. So that was a very easy push out of, you know, my whatever, you know, insecurity I might have had. I'm like, okay, well, no, if this is the alternative, then it's gonna be a no for me, dog. But in the end, I started with that, and then I think Respect, the Aretha Franklin biopic, that was my first, I want to say that was my first time on camera. Well, not, excuse me, that was my first official like movie content that I did on camera, and then it just kind of went from there. And I think at that point, it was more so about overcoming my own fear, my own insecurity, my own sense of like, I'm not good enough for this. I can't do this. Yes, I wanted to share my thoughts on movies. Yes, I wanted to have an opportunity to, you know, do this thing I've always held myself back from doing, but also was kind of proving something to myself, like, hey, you are capable of doing this. You can, you know, make something of this. And in the midst of this can also help you push through a lot of these mental and emotional battles you're having, as we are in the midst of lockdown and the Ponderosa, as I love to call it. You know, as this is going on, I can kind of use this to kind of escape a little bit and figure things out mentally, and, you know, hopefully become a better person on the other end of this. So hopefully I answered the question, but that was kind of the early experience for me.
No, it's awesome. You definitely answered the question for sure, man. And it's great to hear that, you know, and kind of where you are at with your mind. And that's something we're going to talk about, everybody, today, that, you know, I think that starting a YouTube channel is this really fun thing. And it starts with this little curiosity that can also, and we'll get into it after we hear from Mike here, but it can also steamroll in the wrong directions. But Mike, I want to throw the same question off to you. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like starting the channel, what inspired you to do it, and how you feel the journey, you know, kind of started to pick up for you?
Yeah, definitely. Like as they said at the beginning, thanks for having me on, Perez. Really, really appreciate it. And you're the first person I came across on YouTube as well who left me like a really nice comment. So we'll get into that for sure. But yeah, so kind of my journey was, I was at my job where I work now. And at the time, I loved watching movies at the cinema, but I never had that friend or family to like talk to movies about every day, or people would be like, oh, who's this guy collecting Back to the Future stuff all the time? And you know, everyone was like, I don't get it. You know, I don't get that level of obsession you've got with that movie. So there was a guy who I worked with at the time called Curtis, and he was like, have you heard of Chris Stuckman? At this point, I never watched YouTube at all. And wow, times have changed. I'm on YouTube all the time now. But yeah, so like, he was like, have you heard of Chris Stuckman? And I was like, no. So I started watching his movie reviews. And I was like, oh, cool, a channel that talks about movies. Great, you know? So I got watching him, and I was starting to go to the cinema more than ever. And yeah, came across a review of his. I can't remember which one it was, but I disagreed with his opinion completely. So I was like, like I would love to talk about movies. I was like, if a guy like him, a random guy, can do this on YouTube, like why can't I just get on camera and talk about a movie? Even if I didn't set myself goals to be like, right, I want 10,000 subscribers in a month or anything like that at all. I was just like, I'll flick the camera on. My brother-in-law actually edited my first like 2-3 videos because I had no clue what to do. So if you see some rough cuts, it was there. And yeah, the journey's been incredible to an extent. Like you, D. Shout out to like Ryan Ravenose fan, Jason, Old Millennial, and the other guys as well, who I've become like best friends with outside of YouTube. Talk to you guys like every day, voice notes. You guys are there like if I need to talk to anyone, which I don't really have that here in the UK, to an extent. So yeah, like those moments have been like really high and moments that I'm forever thankful for YouTube coming across you guys to start with, or you coming across my channel, etc. But then it can be demotivating, like if your videos don't do well, or you put all your heart and soul into a video and you're like, wow, this video is like the best one I've ever recorded, and it gets like 10 views, and you're like, oh, so right, I'll just not try next time and it'll do well, that video,
Right.
So yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster journey for sure.
That's awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you guys sharing that because, yeah, I think there's this intrigue and like like you just said, there is that roller coaster element to doing this. For anybody who's not familiar with why I started my channel, I at the time, and I'm sure this is something that we can all kind of like Mike already kind of said this, but something we can all probably agree with is like, when it comes down to movies or any art form in general, right? Movies are one of those things that's so widely watched by so many people, but the reality is not everybody's really a movie fan. And I'm not even talking about us who are cinephiles. I'm talking about people who are just really into movies. So the second you see a movie that you have deeper opinions on rather than I like it or I don't like it, and you try to get into directors and cinematographers or the actors and stuff like that, there's so many people that just kind of like, oh, yeah, whatever. Like they don't really care, or you feel like you're just talking to a wall. I found that a lot with coworkers or random other friends or whatever the case may be. So inevitably I found myself wanting to start a YouTube channel simply because I felt like I wanted to find a sense of community. And that's something I'll start this off by saying that goal was found pretty fast, especially as we got into 2020 and 2021. We had all so much time. That's when I started to collaborate with a lot of people. I collaborated with you guys so much in that time frame. The two of you guys have been in dozens of videos on this channel, and that time frame is so pivotal as to why. And I think what I realized a long time ago was that goal was reached. That goal of finding a community and finding people I could talk to was there. And now the two of you guys, and we're going to move into a different part of this conversation because the two of you guys know that I have been flat out depressed over YouTube at times. And I think it's because, like with anything, your goals shift. And I kind of want to hear from the two of you guys on this. But beforehand, I just want to say for me, my goal started to shift into I would love to do this more full time. I think the three of us, we all work day jobs. We all have to still pay bills. We still have to do our own thing around this that is in a lot of ways can't feel like a second job. There's a lot of time and effort and money that's spent that goes into this, whether it be with equipment, whether it be with going to the movies, whether it be with this, that, and the third. And so it's one of those things where growing a channel can really kind of take a toll on your mental state if you're not in a place to kind of just be grateful with the success and the growth you've had. And you guys know candidly that I have not always accepted my growth on different levels very well. I just haven't. A lot of people don't know that when they watch my videos because I'm able to put it on. It is me. I'm still excited to talk about movies, but there's been heavy discouragement. There was a phase in time I struggled to even get 100 views per video, but I just kept grinding. I kept grinding. And I think that's the most important part. That's one thing I will commend the three of us for, is that despite windows where we've struggled with our views, we've all completely grinded to find the path we have. And there's things that we do now that are essential to what we do that people know us for, whether it be movie reviews across the board, or with D with his episodic reviews of so many television shows, Mike, especially in the early days with all the Back to the Future content, like that was top tier, eventually leading to Mike interviewing somebody who was in Back to the Future, which is amazing. And I think that that's something that is not to be kind of slept on. I think that the three of us have really succeeded in different ways and built community and built friendships. And that's something that's really, something to highlight. But I want to kind of shift now into the struggles of like the downside of it, how it weighs on your mind and how you feel in those moments. And so for me, I'll be honest, I've had times where I'm like wanting to quit. I've made posts about quitting. I've made in moments of anger and frustration. I've reached out to you guys that I'm just unhappy, and I stake so much of my happiness on this channel because, you know, I think like we want to do this more full time, you know, and then I don't know if you guys are like me, but I struggle heavily with envy. And it's a weird thing because it's not envy in the sense that I would ever remove anything from anybody else.
Right.
And I'll use you two as examples because you guys know I love you guys. You guys are brothers to me, and I want nothing but success for you guys. But there have been times that I've had videos struggling, and I've seen one of you guys blow up on a video, and my mind says I would never take this from them because I want them to have this success. I want them to rise, and I'm so happy for them. But why not me? You know? And so, D, I'll toss it over to you first now. I want to hear a little bit about once you got past the initial phase, once you found a groove on YouTube, once you got into the editing and you knew what was your style and what was your thing, how have you kind of found yourself mentally handling the struggles, the ups, the downs, the things that don't work too well, the times where you felt like your channel has not been doing well, and you see other people around you who are doing well, maybe even a friend who that doesn't upload often and uploads one thing that blows up, and now they have 1 million subscribers more than you. How have you handled that kind of thing over time?
Well, over time, fine. To begin with, not well. So I'll say this, you know, because like I said, you know, me being in not the best mental space in 2020, not just because of the circumstances, but I also lost, you know, my last grandparent. I mean, it would be difficult enough losing a grandparent, but the last, it just kind of feels like, okay, this is the end of an era, and this is already a time when, you know, just mentally, I feel like this has been, you know, a more significant battle for me. You know, I've been in therapy for years, but I'm like, how is it that despite all these tools I have, I am now in a place where I'm like challenged, and I'm having to like still deal with my mind kind of going to all these really unfortunate places. And so I think having this, like I said, it was a good way to kind of disconnect, escape to an extent. And I remember, if I'm going to be very honest, I remember there was one day where I was filming a review for Wonder Woman 1984. And, you know, I was happy because I had done it. I had knocked it out. And, you know, I was ready to edit and so on and so forth. And then I go to edit it, and I realized like something's wrong with the sound. And I think at that point, basically, I think the mic wasn't connected, and I couldn't do. And I had a complete meltdown. At that point, I was with my mom because I had just so happened to move back because I was moving up from my college town, and you know, I was, you know, staying with her in the meantime, which I think was to my benefit because I think had I been solo during that time, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that anything would have been horrible, but I just think her being there in that particular time of life was very important and very necessary. And I'll probably speak more on that later. But I think, oh, sorry, did someone say something?
No, I think there was a quick echo for a moment.
Oh, okay. But yeah, there was, I had a complete, you know, meltdown, and it wasn't just about the video, but it was just kind of realizing I've been holding back a lot of, you know, rage, grief, frustration about this year as well. Because I remember at one point I was just like, I'm talking about, I'm not a screamer, but if I get to a certain level, there's a point where I just have to let everything out. And it was just like, you know, this whole year, it's not just this. And, you know, what if that, you know, and it was me thinking like, you know, what about the future? What if not, what if none of this matters anymore? What if, you know, it was all this frustration I was unleashing, and sadness and anger and grief, you know, just about life. It's just like, how do we get to this point? Like, I've gone through life, and life has been fine. Nothing's been horrible, but it's like, how do we get to this place where it seems like, you know, when we think about like dystopian movies, and we think about, you know, these things where society is just suddenly like, is this the future? And that was one of the worst moments I had. And like I said, it was about the mic and all that, and not wanting to do it again, but it was more so about the bigger picture. Like, what if all this is really for nothing? And no matter what I really do, this is for a future that may not, you know, mean anything. What if the world is not? It was just a lot of things wrapped into one. When I have emotional moments, it's never the one surface thing. Same thing when I watch movies. It can be a very simple scene that other folks might gloss over, but to me, it hits on a deeper level because it reminds me of someone. It reminds me of an aspect of my life. It just totally different situation. And so realizing, if I'm going to be very honest, after that I had to, I got to the point, and then there would be moments where I would like cry. Like there was one day I remember, it was like early 2021, and it was like I could not stop like crying. I'm not much of a crier at this point in life, but I just remember looking outside. The skies were gray. Everything was ugly. I had just read this book about called Dead Malls. And it's it was this book that basically had like these malls in their former glory, and then what they look like today, because malls have kind of gone by the wayside, and then people talking about their memories and the things that they experienced while they was there, and it was probably bad timing, but reading that, because again, it just felt like, what if this is? It's not just about the mall. I mean, yes, it's me thinking about my experiences going to the mall when I was younger with my family and all those things. But what if this is the future? Like the same way these malls don't exist and they're empty and devoid of life. Like what if that's the future? What if that's the world now? So I ended up having to, in addition to therapy, I ended up having to, start medication just to kind of like balance myself. And I have no stigmas about mental health, but that was new for me. That was just a new situation I had to navigate. And I think once, I got past that, that big hurdle and getting past, the support I really didn't feel from so-called friends at the time and so on and so forth, I think everything YouTube wise got somewhat easier in comparison to that. So I know I kind of went to a deeper place, but that's really where I was. And so, and then I think at least early on, the comparisons, that there were no issues there because, I didn't find out about Chris Stuckman until, I don't know, I learned about it because of some of you guys, because my whole YouTube thing, I would watch people who would do like the beauty gurus, because they would have these HD cameras. They would have like these close-up shots where they would do, the hair and stuff. I thought it was cool. It was one of my great aunts owned a salon. So it was a weird thing where it just felt like it felt nostalgic, like it was scratching a part of my brain watching it. But they would have this content, and then they would talk about how they do their setups for their videos and the lighting. And I was like, wow. So it wasn't just about the hair. It was like they had all this tech set up and all this equipment. And then some of them did like blogs and lifestyle stuff. So there was a lot I learned through those years before I actually did it myself. And so going into it, my main thing was just like, look, I just want to be heard at this point. And I just want to hopefully find people that I can just communicate with. One of my biggest love languages is quality time. And some of that includes, of course, interaction. So I just love, or even if it's, online, but I like to kind of like just have conversations. And I remember someone I knew back in, this was like in college, but I remember just randomly asking one of my friends, they were watching The Lord of the Rings. And I was like, oh, hey, like, what's one of your, like, what would you say, like 3 of your favorite like scenes or sequences from this? And they were like, oh, I don't really have any. I was like, hey, you like this movie, don't you? They're like, yeah. I was just saying, like, if there are any like specific like scenes or like what stand. They're like, oh, I don't really have any. I just watch it. I was like, and I remember I would have other moments like that where it was just like, these are very simple questions. And I understand for everyone, it's different. And I remember sometimes I'd ask questions. They'd be like, well, I'm not a movie critic, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just asking a question about how you feel about the movie. And so sometimes I would just feel like, am I like in the Twilight Zone? I'm asking very simple questions. But I also realized that for some folks, it really just wasn't that deep. They watch it and that's it. And they don't really have a whole lot to think. Like, it was good, it was bad, it sucked, it was cool. Like, it's just very. So for me, the whole comparison piece, not to say that challenge isn't there, but I think because I began with such a emotional upheaval, mentally, emotionally, and all of that, I think, and not to say that there aren't times where I don't get frustrated, especially when I've had that whole, that's where I also have to work with the over editing piece, because you can do all this editing for something that doesn't even do that well. And it's been a few videos like that, and I've been like, oh my gosh. And not to say that I should dumb myself down, but I have to kind of know when to kind of pull back a little bit and learn how to kind of balance the scales as far as the investment. And I feel like I have done that. I'm still working on it, but I'm getting there. But as far as the comparison, I have learned, and I had to learn it early on, is to genuinely celebrate the small wins. So when someone finally left a comment on my video, it was like, oh, okay, that milestone. When I finally told people about the video, even though no one really supported, I was like, well, it's out there now. So and maybe it's just a life thing as well, but and maybe because of my experience, I just learned to celebrate things. Because I feel like once I was in my right, what felt like was in my right mind, I had a sense of stability and peace again. It was like all this other stuff I can handle. And so for me on that front, it's been easier somewhat. And when it comes to comparisons, this is kind of what I always say, and I've said this to some friends, like when I've been on streams, I've been asked questions about this. My go-to statement for all of this, when someone asks me about like how I feel about my channel and what I do, or just me as a person, I feel like, so what I say is, I'm not perfect, but I'm solid. So there is not a sense of necessarily perfection in what I do, even though I try to be. Sometimes I try to push for that, and I have to work on not being a perfectionist. But there are things I can improve on. There are things that are not 100% all the time. There are things I can fix, work on, as far as the process of this, or even me as a person. But I'm solid, meaning I know what my foundation is. I know who I am as a person. I know what I have to offer. I know that it's something that's of value. I know there's purpose in it. So I'm good. So it really doesn't matter who likes it or doesn't like it, because sometimes people come along because they think I can offer one kind of perspective, and other folks go, dip or move on past because I don't offer. But it's like ultimately, whether you come, whether you go, whatever it is, I'm solid. Like the foundation is unshakable. And I'm not going to let anything in life or on YouTube, shake that. So it's kind of like a mental journey for me. It's been.
Yeah, I love that, man. First of all, thank you so much for being so vulnerable and open, because I think that's really the whole thing with this kind of thing, right? It's the ups, the downs, it's the struggles, it's the way it weighs on us, and it's interesting to hear on your side that it's really not about, comparison almost in your own way. It's almost like that personal critical demon in a lot of ways. And when you mention that element about like even just like how frustrated you got with like re-recording when you lost audio, it's funny because that just happened to me a few days ago. I made a post. I ended up deleting it shortly after, but I made a post. The Indiana Jones video that I just recently did for the latest Indiana Jones video game. That like I filmed the video, it was like maybe like 20-minute video unedited, and I got through the editing and about 11 minutes to spare in the video still to go, the audio just cut out. And I was so upset about it because I was happy with how it turned out. And so I just said, I don't know if I'm going to do this. Let me make a post to see if even people want this. You know what I mean? Instead of just like knowing that's kind of ridiculous, right? So I ended up deleting that post. A couple hours later, once I cooled down, I was still wearing the same shirt. I decided, hey, let me give it another go. And I filmed another like 13 minutes. But from where I left off in the video. So I watched what I edited, and then I tried to pick up exactly from there and try to pick up everything that I missed. And then I did it, and I got that 13 minutes, and then I went to go edit it again. And after 5 minutes of the footage, the audio cut out again. And I ended up just learning it was a low battery thing. So the mic wasn't like, the camera was still working, but the mic wasn't working audio wise because the battery was lower than it should be, which I didn't know was the thing. But I thought if the two of them are still on, it should be fine, but that's not the case. So I ended up filming a third video, and so that video I have up is a Frankenstein's monster of the 3 videos to get the one video. But I was ready to quit, man. I was ready to throw the video in the trash. And there's been so much frustration on this channel over certain videos that I've made, or things haven't really worked out. And really quickly, I wanted to start getting to some of the comments. And Mike, we're going to hear from you in just a second too, but I see the latest comment, and we're going to get to them. We got Ryan in here saying that, have you ever thought about putting up your mess ups? Now, funny enough, if you go back and watch my review for, I think the one that I really put in there, I put a couple of mistakes where I've like made fun of myself, but one that you can see pure true angers. If you look at my review for Black Widow, when that came out, the movie, there's a portion in there where I made so many mistakes. I kept it in for hee hee ho hos for myself, but that was real anger in that moment where I took my hat off and I was like, fuck, and I threw it on the ground, and there was pure rage. And what you did not see in the edit there was a lot more of that, a lot more slanderous words that were being thrown out there. But it is something that I've struggled with a lot. And on my side, I've struggled heavily with envy, man. Like I mentioned before, like it's this thing of like comparison, or I'll see somebody who doesn't upload often, upload a video and then get this massive success. And I'm so thrilled for them because they're usually fantastic people. And I would never, ever take that away from them. But there's this part of me that's just like, why not me? And then I'll have wins, but it's really become about the little wins. And you guys know, and I made a post about it, and I've talked about it recently in my top 10 video that I recently did. But in the last part of this year, the middle part of this last year, I took like a last minute break on YouTube, unplanned, because I ended up getting medication for for anxiety that ended up, essentially the way the doctor described it to me was that like I was sensitive to the anxiety medication without knowing it, even though it was a really low dosage. It essentially unlocked all of my anxiety and just made my body go haywire. Wow. So for like 2 or 3 weeks in June, I was having nonstop panic attacks to the point where I wasn't sleeping. I was waking up with my heart racing. I ended up having to take a medical LOA from my job. Like my doctor literally had to sign an LOA so I could spend time away from home and get like a small percentage of money of my paychecks to just be able to stay home. But I spent most of my days like hot, cold, sweaty, in the bed, almost felt like I was withdrawing from a drug, but also with my heart just kicking at the speed of a light. I was having nonstop involuntary panic attacks. And what I really realized is I worked myself up. All those years of texting and calling you guys, sending messages of me just being outraged and sitting in the anxiety and sitting in the frustration and sitting in the depression and sitting in the anger, all led to me, my body just exploding and saying, all right, well, you didn't want to try to handle this before. Well, now we're just going to expel all of this right now without you having a single word to say about any of it. And it really changed me. My wife just said to me the other day, and it really kind of helped make me feel better. But she, just told me that she wanted me to wanted to let me know that she's noticed I've been way less angry since all that. And I think it's just because I was forced to sit at home and work on it. I was forced to not watch anything. Even if I was like in that time, if I started playing a video game that was like tense, if it increased my heart rate at all, my body was having an anxiety response and I would start to feel panic instead of just enjoying myself. So I really had to take time to just be, just to exist, and disconnect from movies and views and all that stuff. And then I was in these moments of these panic attacks where I started to kind of just have this sense of gratitude of like, dude, you are enough. Your channel is enough. Your channel is succeeding. You've made so many friends. You're part of a critics association. You get to see things early. That video did well. Maybe that one didn't, but this one and this one and this one did well. And it's a marathon. It's not a race, And I think it's one of those things that you just kind of have to kind of come to terms with within yourself, to kind of like find some peace, And so I really appreciate you kind of speaking about it in yourself, man. But yeah, I think I've been there as well, where it's, at a certain point, if you don't take care of yourself mentally, your body will react because your body at a certain point has a disconnect from what your thoughts are, but more so what's like sitting in the subconscious, and it tore me up over time. And it's given me a greater sense of gratitude. Even now, I might still feel that little bit of envy from time to time when I see somebody like succeeding. And again, I would never take it away from them. I want them to do well. I want them to succeed. But it's just that thing of like, well, why wasn't I along for the journey too, even though that's their journey? You know what I'm saying? And it's this weird thing of comparison. And I think the social media and the world we live in today has really kind of perpetuated the world that we live in. But everybody, I want to get to your comments. We're going to get to your comments in just a second. So if anybody has any comments or questions that they want us to read out, we're going to get into that in just a second. There's a bunch we're going to catch up on. So if you're still here, thank you so much. But Mike, I want to throw it over to you now on the same topic. Once you got past that initial thing, and what was kind of the struggles you've dealt with in terms of the downside to YouTube and how it's affected you?
Yeah, of course. And I think firstly, thanks to you guys for being open and vulnerable, because I think what people don't realize is we just do, we're just regular guys who have regular jobs and do this as a hobby and want to take this further one day. But what people don't realize is maybe on videos we come across smiling and be like, hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the video. But outside of that video, we're going through our own personal things as well. But I think people don't realize that at times. But then, of course, it gives a chance, like, a live stream like this where we can be a bit more open and kind of share more about ourselves as well. So I appreciate you guys being open and honest as well. So yeah, I mean, like with my journey, kind of like it's been interesting because like when I first started YouTube in 2018, like I had no expectations. As I mentioned, like I had no goals. I didn't set myself like a bar or a standard or to be like this many views, subs in this amount of time. I'll be honest, I didn't have a clue what I was doing when I first started YouTube. Until I actually got talking to Anthony, who left a really great comment on one of my Blinded by the Light video. And I was like, wow, there is some nice people on YouTube. Wow, awesome. Because I remember one video I deleted because I got like hate comment after hate comment on this video. But of course, I say at the time, I was brand new to YouTube. I'd never experienced that before. I was like, wow, this is, just, I didn't like the dislike and hate. I couldn't manage it really at that point. So as soon as I got talked to Anthony, like that's when Anthony's like, well, look, like you want to be kind of, uploading more. You want to be more consistent with your content. Because I would put a video out maybe once a month and that was it, or the trend kind of thing. So I kind of gained that skills to have that more cohesion in my channel and videos and, and kind of become a channel, right? But I think with the discouragement element for me, is I've only shared this with Anthony, by the way, so I don't think anyone actually knows this until now. But there's been 2 times when I've nearly had my YouTube channel deleted. First time I hit 2 copyright strikes out of 3 in the space of like a day. Right. And the second time was only a few months ago. I got demonetized for a brief time until getting monetized again. So like those kind of 2 big events was kind of hard hitting for me personally. And I remember texting you, Anthony, at the time. I'm like, right, I'm quitting. I'm like, what's the point? I'm 2 strikes out of 3 at this point. I might as well just get the 3rd and, like you're out of here, or demonetization. And at that point, when I got demonetized, a lot of my videos blew up. And I'm like, this is just typical. When I'm monetized, I get like 10 pence. When I'm not monetized, I'll get like $100 and stuff, but that's a kind of different thing. But yeah, so I think like with my journey overall, it's been interesting. There's been times when I've had highs, and we've like had several reviews we've all done of a movie or TV show, all of us respectively, and we've all done well and been like, wow, our reviews are doing great, or like, what's your watch time, what's your viewership time, that kind of stuff. But yeah, then as you mentioned, Perez, like there's been times when like your videos like smoked mine or vice versa, or like someone in our community's done a lot better, and you're like, well, how does that all kind of work? But I think coming back to Dee's point, I think it's a great statement he said about not being perfect, but being solid in yourself, knowing that you've produced a good video, you've done, like editing that you're proud of, you're happy of the piece of work you've produced and you've put out there. And that alone should be celebrated, that because you got to think, although we're comfortable in front of the camera, we still got to remind ourselves that it still took a lot for us to sit down, to sit in front of this phone or laptop computer, to actually record ourselves talking about said subject, and then taking the time to edit all of that, however long that takes, finding the images, uploading it on YouTube, putting the tags in, the description. That alone takes a lot of effort, what people maybe don't realize. So I think it's just important to celebrate those little wins, although you can get swept up in a video performance or maybe a YouTube peer or someone of doing really well, and you question, well, what are you doing wrong? But in essence, sometimes you're not doing anything wrong. It's just the YouTube algorithm, if it wants to push you out, or you've got that audience there for like, whenever you upload a video, they're straight on it, or you've got an audience where you're like, right, yeah, a certain amount of people will check out my video, but you're relying on it coming across to strangers to do well, really.
Yeah, so true, man. Thank you guys, first of all, for being open and vulnerable. This is exactly what I was hoping for, a real raw discussion, because, at the end of the day, it's like, this is the kind of stuff that people just don't see on our channels. Like Mike was saying, and mind you, we don't want to bog you down with this, because we want you to come and, just like the movies, be able to be like, hey, like we're entertained for a little bit, whether it be with, Mike having a hot take and fighting off people in the comments, or having D be like, like super funny. Like D, like I love your editing. I love like it's for me, it doesn't feel like over editing. It feels like you. I don't know anybody else that edits videos like you, that structures videos like you, you know. So that's something that I think makes your channel unique, you know. Or it's like, you know, or with me, like if you, you know, whatever, like whatever you enjoy about my videos, if you know, we want our videos to be a place of entertainment, and we don't want to bog people down with the downside. But you know, this is what I was. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say one thing. Whenever you do a video, Perez, like I always watch your videos and stuff. But one thing I just want to throw in, which is quite funny. Emma always says to me, she's like, right, how long did it take Perez to mention Star Wars in this video today? it could be about Toy Story, and I'm like, yeah, it took about 5 minutes, 12 seconds. Star Wars was punted in there.
Oh yeah, you know it, man. If there's an actor, there's a crossover of some sort, I'm gonna bring it up, dude, for sure, 100%.
I was also gonna say what I enjoy about your videos, Anthony, especially in the morning when I'm getting ready or just kind of getting up. And I don't know if it's one of those things that I appreciate more as I get older. But I just appreciate how calming your videos are. Now, there might be times here and there where I want you to like to absolutely act a fool, given that Venom video I've referenced plenty of times before. However, I understand that, you know, you evolve and you grow, and so we can't always do rants. But I do appreciate just the fact when I watch your stuff, it's just like, you know, especially when I'm waking up or I'm getting, you know, going to work and this headspace I might be in when I'm getting ready, I need, you know, just something calming and tranquil and chill. And I feel like when I watch your videos, it always gives me that. I mean, the passion is there, but it doesn't require a bunch of theatrics. It's just like just general enjoyment for me.
Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that, dude, for sure. You know, and I think the three of us probably like, it's those moments where you get a comment like that from a friend or from a random commenter that says, hey, I really like how you did this video. I really enjoyed it. Those moments really make these discouraging moments worth it. You know, I know I've been in your guys' comments before, and I've seen, you know, I like people's comments that are giving you guys your flowers, and it's always great to see you guys being praised in a way that's deserving, you know. So I definitely have more that I want to touch on. There's a little foolishness for you right there. I still want to talk about some things here, of course, specifically about what Dee just said. We're going to move into the evolving of ourselves over time on YouTube. But before we do that, I want to look at some of the comments, like I said I was going to. And I want to say most of these comments are all from people who have channels themselves. So if you guys are watching this and you want to support smaller channels or support each other and continue to grow a sense of community, give all of these channels some love. Starting off, Worst Review popped in to say, yo, how's it going, guys? Hey, man, how's it going? By the way, Dee and Mike, if you guys want to chime in specifically on any of these comments, if you have any thoughts, please feel free to just cut me off, and we'll get to those. Nick Short Take says, even gents, looking forward to at least some of the stream. Well, thank you for stopping by. Sin popped in to say hello. Great group of guys right here. Yes, Sin, another one who was recently on the channel. I love her videos. Jason, the old millennial, popped in here saying, hey guys, interesting topic. I want to skip forward just a little bit, though, because I did notice that he dropped just another comment a moment ago saying that he feels like he wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Mike and his generosity. And a lot of ways I really want to echo that, man. I think that, Mike, you do have this ability to kind of be really kind to people, man, in a way that I envy. I think I can be a little bit of an asshole on my inside sometimes. And when I see pure generosity and kindness, you know, it is something that's pretty great, man. Ryan popped in here as well to say the legends are all here in one live stream. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. HH Night Review said, I got on YouTube in its second year. If I had any clue about the juggernaut the platform would become, then I would have done a dozen things differently and be synonymous with Jeremy Johns. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that element too. Would either one of you guys want to chime in on kind of like the wildness of like maybe having started earlier, and like, do you ever have that moment where you think to yourself, I wish I started sooner to kind of be a part of a rise in something?
So I was gonna say, like, that is the one. That's kind of like that one little ghost that keeps haunting me from time to time, because I am very much it's weird. Like it's one of those things where it's like a lot of people say, like, you know, I don't regret anything because, you know, I wouldn't change anything. I'm not really one of those people. And I only say that because I can kind of connect the dots with certain things and see like how certain aspects of life could have been different. Or even like, because I've talked about the whole loss thing, it'd be like, well, I would appreciate certain people more, or have the chance to talk to them more, or value certain, you know, like it's different things like that. And the thing is, Yes. Do I wish I had started YouTube earlier? Yes. But I also know at the same time, um, and I don't know, it's one of those things where we talk about fate, we talk about destiny, and how everyone feels about that is different. But I do know it's very possible had I started differently. Like, so if I could have done more for myself on this platform prior to, yeah, I probably would, in theory, take that opportunity. But I also don't know if I would have wanted to be in a position where this whole dynamic in this community that I've established with you guys or with people off of the platform, if that timing would mean then shifting that so that that didn't exist. You know how we talk about the whole butterfly effect, or one decision changes all these other ones? That is where I kind of have to like pull back on that, because that one idea can kind of change everything else. So like, it's one of those things where I can acknowledge, yeah, if it would reap more rewards in theory, yes, I would. And then I could have been more, established in this space or done more. Yes. But would I also necessarily want to give that up for the sense of community and the sense of growth I've established in this space, especially knowing like with some of these big channels, like the disconnect from community that can happen sometimes? I don't know if I would necessarily want that.
Right. No, for sure. I totally agree, man. Totally agree. I think there is that part of me because I started watching YouTube so young, like I can remember right after graduating high school at like in 2011, I was heavily on YouTube. I used to watch like the Angry Video Game Nerd all day, every day, and Cinemassacre in particular, James Wolfe from that channel, outside of his insanity with, Angry Video Game Nerd, his breakdowns of like old cinema, black and white films of like the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s was what got me into a lot of those older films, and it got me to kind of go back and start like, diving into some of these movies on a deeper level. And yeah, I sometimes wish I had started then, but yeah, I think you make a good point that it's like, would we have met? Would things have been the same? Would you give that up today for the sake of some sort of possibility of success? Yeah, it's like, I don't think I would, in the grand scheme of things, Moving on, we have Sin popping in here to see. I think the struggle can be real for a lot of us. I often struggle to get hundreds of views on my reviews. I think folks would rather continue to see my comedy reactions, but it's not where my heart is. Yeah, do you guys ever have those moments, and either one of you chime in, those moments where like, a certain kind of video might do well, but it's just not really what appeals to you at all?
Mike?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Sorry, Dave, where you going to go?
No, I was saying you go ahead and go, because I talked last time. I don't think you mentioned anything last time.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, like both of you guys know, which is kind of some synonymous for myself, is I've usually never seen that particular movie we're talking about, right? The watch list is never ending at this point. More than a lot of people. So yeah, so like for example, it's been suggested to me a couple of times. Rashad and a few other people said, well, have you thought about doing reactions to movies? And I said, I was like, well, I could, but my reaction would just be that, right? Like just plain faced for most of the movie. And, that's not exciting. I'm not one of those people to over exaggerate over a movie I'm watching. But, like there's been a few times I've done those kind of like a trailer review, or I've done like a first time watch movie review on that. And I've enjoyed that experience. Those videos have done well, but ultimately I'm just like, I don't really want to be doing that. So that's where I've kind of found a bit like Sin, where those videos I'm not really into.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also was going to say, I do know, like, it's weird because I appreciate, oh Lord, I've had conversations with this with Mike about the struggle with reactions for me, even watching them. Sometimes I'm like, oh, okay. And then it's frustrating because, the algorithm pushes what it wants to push. So it's just like, oh, hey, here's kind of without trying to sound bitter or resentful, it just kind of sometimes feels like it's an easy way, to success on YouTube. Not to say that those people still aren't putting in work, but it does almost feel like, to me, it's less risk, more reward, and just the depth of what is being done. It's almost like it's not valued. Like the to what sometimes can feel like theatrics. And stunts and shows, it feels like that's sometimes more valued. even if we're just talking about our general commentary, it just seems like the what's prioritized is different. And that can be frustrating for me as well. I also know that a lot of my, friends who don't do movie stuff, they do a lot of reality shows. And that would be very easy for me to jump into and get more feedback on this. And the thing is, I like some reality shows. I'm more into reality competition. So I like, stuff like Survivor. I love the Traders that just came on. And then, even with the series, I've done, the Gilded Age, Bridgerton, like period stuff. And so, that's kind of where my lane is. But I also know and I think also with reality TV at this point, I also think maybe what it was before would have been one thing, but I just feel like reality TV reflects so much toxicity, non-competition reality shows, and it's just like I don't want to get into just that space where like the fan bases and they're going back and forth, and like a lot of the stuff that and the way that people behave and the fans behave and all that, I don't want to put myself there. So it would be great to do it, but I just feel like on my channel, even if it is reality TV, I want it to reflect something quirky, fun, positive, which is why I'll talk about something like the Traders or something like that. So I just think you have to know like what it's kind of like defining yourself for yourself. I think that's a quote by Audre Lorde. But I think it's like because if you didn't define yourself for yourself, you'd be crunched up into other people's fantasies of you and eaten alive. And it's a very intense quote, but it's like you can't compromise on who you genuinely want to be. And I understand we're talking about YouTube, but that's also life. So it just depends, like who you want to be is who you need to be. And if your content doesn't speak to a certain demographic, then they can move along and find somebody else. And I'm learning to be okay with that as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a really good point from the two of you guys. I think at the end of the day, it's like you got to be truthful to the videos you're doing, and like I know for me, I've had people tell me like, oh, I love that video you did where you were really funny or you were really like outspoken in this like aggressive way. And it's like certain movies will bring that out of me. But like I personally I love the people who do that and it's truthful from them, and for me, when the stuff that I find myself in love with the most as a viewer and that I do because it comes through to me naturally is more analytical thought. It's more professionally put together videos. I can throw in a little quirk from here and there or something that's silly, but like I really do want to come off like a well-spoken professional person that's not just trying to be like, hey, like here's my video. It's like, there's a time and place for that, where you can be like a little bit more rambunctious, but it's got to feel normal. It's got to feel real, Moving on here, we got Anna popping in to say YouTube is an up and down roller coaster. It definitely is. Alden Tuttle popping in here to say, I almost called it quits last year in March. I was like, okay, I'm going to review the original X-Men cartoon and Dune, but if that fails, I'm done. And then he hit 50 subscribers, which is great, man. Congratulations on sticking around, man. It's a tough one, man, especially in those early days for sure. HH Knight popped in here to say that Anthony has been more successful in less time, so I'm envious of him. And I totally get it, man. Like, I appreciate the kind words, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we have people. I'll look at somebody like Mike. I love Mike. He's my brother. He's on here because we're great friends. I'm going to his wedding next month. He's a great friend. And so is D. It's going to be the most legendary big YouTuber picture. There's going to be more of us there. It's going to be epic. But
right.
With Mike, I'll be honest. When I met Mike, he had a substantially less subscribers than me. And now Mike has thousands more subscribers than me. And if you think that hasn't made me feel some type of way at some point in the wee hours of the night, it has. Would I ever remove that from Mike? Never in my life. I'm so happy for him. But that envy does lie in there of like, well, why not me? And I think it's one of those things that I totally get. It's like you really never know how you're going to feel. And I don't judge anybody for feeling envious in this space.
I was going to say, as far as the envy part, even though like the comparison piece does come in as far as sometimes with people and sometimes what you invest versus what other people don't invest, partly what I was saying with reactions and just with other things in general, it's just like, how do you gauge what hits and what doesn't? It's that can be frustrating in itself. But I think I don't know if I've told you this before, Anthony. I know I've said this to Mike before, but I'm like, I get very aggravated when people who are a part of a smaller community suddenly have their explosion or have their big, catalyst moment, and
Yeah, and
then
they hit the boost.
out of here, deuces, sucker. See you on the flip side, like, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, wow. And the thing is, no one. If I'm gonna be fair, no one. It's not to say that anyone owes anyone anything, but I just think it's very questionable as far as character, in my opinion, to be a part of something as long as it benefits you. And then when you don't need it anymore, it's just like, okay, I'm good on that. It also frustrates me when people have, and it's different because I understand with bigger platforms, the bigger you get, it's harder to kind of keep up with, comments or whatever. But people who, brush past comments, people who don't engage, people who don't, and it's just like, I just want the opportunity to engage, not for the sake of engagement for my video to do well. I mean, I understand that's a piece of it, but I want to just be able to hear what people have to say about blah, 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 whatever. That's part of the reason. Yes, I understand the monetization piece is there, but I just enjoy the engagement. And so to sometimes see that get glossed over for these channels that are just there, they drop their stuff and they go, which is what they can do. But for me, that sometimes is a frustration in that, why is it? Or I'll even see some channels where like they talk to their subscribers any kind of way, or they argue and they go back and forth on live stream. And it's just like, why is it not enough to have a desire for a community, a desire for a healthy conversation, be able to have that, and then, that be something that, of course, also helps build you up and grow. I find it frustrating sometimes where it just feels like what you see as a symbol of success and how that's reflected in the connection or lack of connection with the community or the audience, subscribers, whatever. That's something that does frustrate me as far as that, because it's just like the type of people who get those opportunities and kind of waste them, or the way that they go about, utilizing them or not utilizing them, that is one of those sore points for me.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. And that's something that for me, sometimes with the envy piece will piss me off too, because I'm the kind of person who at least heart reacts or respond to people in the comments. And then there's these people who, like, mind you, if you get to a certain extent, you're not gonna be able to do it for every comment if you're getting enough views. So I totally respect that too. But when it's still manageable and it just feels like the person has kind of become unreachable now, I think it creates this weird precedent. And yeah, like I think that we can probably all individually think about people we've had in our community that we no longer see anymore, that we're friends on Facebook. They may follow you, but it's like you reach out to them, it's damn near impossible to get a response anymore. I have people who I have had on this channel as guests that I've never heard from ever again, that were like, they were around. Maybe they even asked me if they could collab on my channel. And then we collab, they got bigger, and I've never heard from them again. I've maybe reached out for another collab at a certain point. Nothing. So yeah. Did you have any thoughts on that topic, Mike?
Yeah, no, I can kind of just relate with both of you guys. And those channels where, for me, like there'll be in the video, or like, you guys leave your thoughts down below in the comment section, or comment below your thoughts, and then there's no replies. It's just, to me, if that happens, I'm just like, well, why are all these people talking to a brick wall right now?
Right.
There's nothing there.
Nothing.
Yeah, so like like I want that engagement, I want that conversation, or someone's got a negative thing to say about my video, like leave a constructive comment to be like, oh, well, hey, this was good in your review, but actually this was terrible. Like, work on this, like at least it's constructive. But a lot of the time I get like, I'm sure we can go into it a little bit, but yeah, I just think a lot of people want the comments, but they don't want to reply and spend that time to reply to people, which I don't get.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on a little bit here, we got YK Reviews popping in and saying, hello, everyone, 3 legends on YouTube. This is definitely a hard grind, but if I can't stay for the whole stream, I just want to say that I hope that you all find success on YouTube and do get to do this full time. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. He's been on the channel as well. Definitely go give him some love as well.
I miss YK's videos. He hasn't been around for a few months.
Yeah, I know he posted that he was taking a little break for some personal stuff, so hopefully he'll be back to the grind soon enough. Chad popped in here to say, currently on my break at work, here to say that that you 3 are some of the best fellow YouTube film critics. Love this discussion that you 3 are having and can 100% relate. To be honest, I actually invited Chad to join us today, but he's working right now, and I couldn't do the stream later in the day by the time he's off. at least not starting it around that time. So that's why he's not on here. But I would love to have Chad on once again soon. He's going to be on again for Under Wraps 2, the sequel to the remake of Under Wraps that have not been very good. Worst reviews popped in. Say, my perspective, I've never really sought fame/views for my channel, but what's kept me grounded is to remind myself to have fun and to do my own thing. And in general, I try not to compare myself to others. I think that's the healthiest outlook and approach, right? I think that that's something that I wish I was way more in tune with, and something I think we can all definitely appreciate and understand. By the way, I know I told you guys earlier we're going to go for like an hour and some change, but I feel like this is going pretty well. Are you guys cool to still stick around for a little bit longer?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm here as long as you need me.
All right, cool. We won't go like forever, but you know, I feel like I don't want to cut it off. There's still a lot of comments, and I still have a lot I want to talk to you guys about.
Yeah.
Cinematic popped in here to say happy Friday. Ryan also saying, my question would be for the three of you, where you're at now to where you were starting at. How do you take those keyboard warriors down in the comments compared to maybe when you first started? Yeah, I think for me it was like I was way more defensive and snarky, and like I took it to heart a little bit more. Now if somebody's like a flat out a-hole, like I'll still like, you know, I'll still kind of give them a little bit of what they're dishing out, but I usually try to respond with a little bit more of a clever approach to try to like, you know, not necessarily be like vindictive, but maybe a little bit more like, you know, let's say like, let's put it like this. I've definitely hit people with some killing them with kindness, but there's a little sass behind the typing, if you know what I mean. And I've had a couple people afterwards, like in some of these situations, be like, well, you know, I hope I hope I didn't come off a little harsh in my first comment. And like,
yeah,
it's like they don't expect you to respond. You know, they it's almost like those people, going back to what Mike said, expect you to just drop a comment and kind of just like they're throwing it out to a brick wall. Like they hope you don't respond. And as soon as you have like a human conversation with them, they're like, well, you know, I had a guy go off on me recently for Nosferatu, and you know, we went back and forth, and then eventually he goes, by the way, I really like your show, so I'm agreeing with you. I'm thinking, nothing about this comment thread has been you agreeing with me, but okay. But I want to hear from you guys as well. Anybody want to chime in?
I want to throw a perfect example here. So thanks for the question, Ryan. So the best example I can give is, I think it was 2023, the movie Bottoms. Did you guys see that movie?
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, I remember you got your butthole roasted for that one.
Right. So to give a quick example of how I deal with the kind of trolls nowadays. So that movie is, you know, an LGBT plus movie. You know, it's about two girls falling in love with each other, two high school crushes, trying to get their crushes and stuff like that. So that's all cool. So I didn't like the movie whatsoever, but there was nothing about the gay element of the movie. I don't care about that. That was not the problem with the movie. The comedy was the problem with that movie. It was non-existent.
Right.
So in my review, I came across and said, look, you know, the performances were okay, but you know, the comedy sucked. It's meant to be a comedy, but it's the worst comedy of 2023 at this point. It's terrible. And I would get a lot of people in that community comment on my video, clearly just saying, like, you know, nothing against, like, you know, about the comedy element I said, but they'd be like, this movie is not for you because I'm not part of that community. So I would respond back to them, say, like, where on the movie poster does it say not for straight men? You know, or like, where does it say, like, you know, like straight men or women can't watch this movie? Right. You know, and I would come back with that comment, and sometimes I would not get any response at all. Or sometimes they'd be like, oh, well, you know, let us have our movie. And I'm like, yeah, enjoy the movie as much as you want, but it didn't work for me. You clearly read the title of my video saying worst comedy of the year before you click the video. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like pulled them on a bit quippy, I guess, but I kind of pulled them on that kind of stuff, really, and they can't really say anything back. Whereas, like, when I was first started, I would, as I say, like, I first started, I delete the video because I got that many, like, comments on it, you know? So.
Right. Yeah, no, really quickly, I want to hear from D as well, but just on the notion of the title, that's always a funny thing because I recently with my Nosferatu video, again, another comment from that, I put a remake done right. And I had a guy comment saying, how is this a remake done right if it just does what the other movie did? I'm like, what's it's still it's a remake, you know, still got to follow that story. And then they were like, yeah, this is just a remake of the Gary Oldman film. I'm like, you do realize that too was a remake, right? Like we can go all the way back to 1922 Nosferatu, but even like that one with Gary Oldman was literally has lines directly from the 1931 Bela Lugosi Dracula.
Right.
So it's like, you know, that's kind of like the point. It's a remake. And I just like, it's moments like that where it's like, you didn't listen to anything. You just clicked on this with fiery fingers. But D, go ahead. Let's hear your thoughts on this.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw out a very quick example. I'm gonna rush through it, and then I'll kind of say how I do things now. So I still remember this because honestly, I will say all things considered, I really don't get a lot of negative comments like that. Now, maybe because I don't. It depends on some of the films I discuss, or I don't know, for whatever reason. But I don't get that many. I do remember this one I got on my review of Respect, the Aretha Franklin biopic. So this person, of course, said this in all caps in a big paragraph. They said, no disrespect intended, but the reason the general public has nothing to say about this movie because it is the worst you can present for the Queen of Soul. It was boring AF. Some of the cast were cool, but the writing was trash. They missed the mark on all levels. How could you see the Ray film and look at this film without throwing up in your mouth? These reviewers are lying to you. So that's a whole lot, right? So what I said, and this is the only time I would probably do this. I wouldn't do this now, but I said, and it still speaks to how I am, but I wouldn't dedicate this much typing to this. But I said, I am pretty sure, referring, because they said no disrespect intended. I said, I'm pretty sure referring to my personal opinion as a lie is intended as disrespect. Film, like many things, is subjective. Everyone's experience varies according to their personal perspective. It is not a requirement for my experience to align with yours or anyone else's. Some people enjoyed the film while others did not. We can agree to disagree without inflammatory commentary. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And honestly, without, it wouldn't be as long. But honestly, that's kind of what it comes down to me. So how I sum up my general take on like comments and all that stuff, there is a quote from a Real Housewives of Potomac episode. This was like their first, I think the very first episode of the very first season. But she said this, and I will always, I never forgot this, and I always kind of say to myself now. She said, people come for me all the time. They just don't find me. And honestly, that's how I feel about it, because no matter what you're trying to like come sideways of me about, ultimately we're talking about movies, possibly TV shows, maybe a trailer, whatever it is you have to say or whatever it is you're upset about is not about me. You're simply using me as, a target to direct your anger about because I don't agree or this and this and this and this and that. And when it comes, I'm like, you're not, whatever your aim is, because sometimes the aim is to get you riled up, to get you angry, to get you this, to get you that. And it's just like, even in life, there are things I've experienced that are far beyond just things that are like simple or trivial, especially like stuff that goes on YouTube. So for me, there's nothing that's landing. Whatever it is you're trying to throw out, it's not hitting me anywhere. And so for me, it's very simple. I even remember one time I was on someone else's channel just commenting like, oh, I think that, I don't know, I probably said something about how much I didn't like this aspect of the movie or whatever. Someone comes and comments responding to me on someone else's video, and they say, well, I just looked at your channel and it doesn't seem like you like anything. You don't seem to like any kind of movie. And I was like, oh, awesome. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. What am I supposed to say to that? You went all the way out of your way to respond to some random person in the comment section and going to my channel just to make a point about what? And not only is the point not true, but it's just like, what is the point? What are you really saying here?
Right.
So for me, it's just knowing like whatever it is, like I honestly don't, there's nothing for me to get upset about. You talk about my mama, you don't know my mama. So what am I getting upset about? Like, talk about, I mean, like, it's just like nothing you're saying is landing. So for me, it's not even like I'm trying to be snarky. It's genuinely like, okay, well, it's all good. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, genuinely, because whatever you're upset about don't have anything to do with me. So I genuinely hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and it's all good over here.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of recently. I got and it's funny because I did my review for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which I liked, didn't love. I thought the action was epic. I thought the finale was everything you went to that movie to see.
Right.
But a lot of people really enjoyed it more than I did. I feel like a lot of times I tend to be with the crowd sometimes, but every here and there, like you're not with the crowd. Something like, and that weekend I was not with the crowd. I loved Mufasa for what it was. Some people hated it.
Right.
I liked Sonic. I didn't love it. Some people loved it. And it's funny because my title just says, is action packed, but ... Of course, let's be real, guys. That is kind of a ploy to get somebody to go, well, what's the but? Like just to click the, it's like, but the reality is, if you watch my review, you'll know that I liked it. And I praised a lot about the film, especially the Sonic shadow element of the film that you're going to the movie for. And I had this guy comment, I got the notification on my phone and it said, I love that the only people who don't like this movie are YouTubers with no subscribers. So I clicked on the notification to go to his to go to the comment. Gone. Nowhere. I looked through YouTube Studios. I refreshed. I even went to like hidden comments to see if it was. They must have watched like the first 2 minutes of my video and seen I actually didn't dislike the film, and he just decided to delete his comment. But I still saw it. I don't know who that young chap was, but they had some quick thoughts about me, and then they instantly deleted it because they actually listened to what I had to say. And I think that we're kind of in this space where, like, with comments, sometimes it's just there isn't that want to listen, Moving on to the comments quickly, we got Mike's Movie Reviews, who's actually a fellow critic in my local critics association. I recently met him. Does a lot of short reviews and some long form reviews as well. Definitely will give him some love. Just dropped his review for one of my favorite films I've seen recently, Better Man, that I'm going to see for my 4th time tonight. He also popped in here saying, your videos are great, man. Thanks so much.
I agree.
Everybody go watch Better Man this weekend. Let's see. Sin popped in here also to say an actor from Den of Thieves 2 just liked my tweeted movie review about it. Sorry, it was just a surprise to notice. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yes.
He also said we can all be assholes inside at some point, Anthony. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I was just going to say really quickly. I know you may not care for this, for what I'm going to say, but I also was going to say, when it comes to comments, some can be, I don't know whether the intention is or not, but sometimes they can be they can be unintentionally comedic.
Right.
And the comment in question I'm thinking of was on one of your videos, Perez. And I am ashamed. I am so sorry, but I am ashamed to say that it took me a while to stop laughing when I saw it. I personally just never thought I would look in your comments and see someone telling my good friend Anthony that he is a goat throat for the mouse of like, as far as Disney. That was one of the wild.
Yeah, dude. For anybody who's wondering what he's referring to, if you want a laugh and you want to see me get the most roasted I've ever been, go to my review for Star Wars The Acolyte, not the full season review, my review for the first 4 episodes when the hate was at an all-time peak. I got to see the first 4 episodes early, and I was getting called a Disney shill. I was sucking on Mickey's snob lob. I got called everything. Everybody was saying Disney paid me for this review, this, that, and the third. Let me tell you something. Nobody's paid me for jack. And if they were paying me for things, I would probably have more subscribers or more something. The payment obviously ain't going far enough. Okay. But yeah, I got called quite a few things in that comment section. So if you want to laugh, my Acolyte review for sure.
And let me say, it didn't take away from the ignorance. If anything, that made it funnier. But it's just like, what a creative way to say that you couldn't just say, like, you're getting paid. Like, no, you are I was like, wow, that's new to me.
Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot of it. Rejected Heroes Media, Darnell popping in here to say what's up. Also saying that his question is one of the main YouTube goals you would want to hit in the next 5 years in 2030? Honestly, my main goal really would be, I just would love to be able to do this more full time. I don't want to, I think it kind of creates this precedent for some people that I want to be famous. I want to be Mr. Beast. And I always tell people that's not my goal here. I think what I love about YouTube is that you can make money on here. You can grow your audience base and be somebody that can walk through anywhere and nobody would know who you are. Like the reality is, somebody like a Jeremy Johns, we know who he is. He's ginormous. He's got a huge fan base, but that guy can live a normal life and have people not know who he is, because that's kind of the beauty of YouTube. And now that's a really big example, but there's people substantially lower than that are able to do this for like a decent amount of money and are able to live normal lives. And I think more than anything, I would love the ability to continue to grow this. I'm part of the Critics Association now. I get to see movies early and stuff. I would love to eventually be to a place where I'm growing out to cover things on a press level legitimately and be able to do this more full time, even if it didn't mean I could quit my day job altogether. Maybe it just meant I can reduce my hours to where this can get more time, where I could put more money into equipment, where I could put more money into editing software, and maybe even paying for an editor to take the editing up a notch, because my editing skills are solid, but they're not as good as I'd love them to be. And I'm always working to grow it, but there's limitations. So I would say that's my goal, is to be able to do this on a more consistent basis where there's a monetary kind of inflow to be able to own, not for any sake of hey, I want a Bugatti. I don't give a damn about any of that. I think I wouldn't really change how I live all that much. It's more to just be able to be like, I can pay my bills and really give this more love and focus than I currently do. What about you guys?
Same. You pretty much said it to a T, really.
Yeah, I was gonna say a big part of it, and I've talked about this on my channel and with you guys, but I love going to film festivals, and I love being accredited press and having those opportunities, and not just for the sake of being press because it's lofty, but one, it circumvents costs that you would have to, have to handle on your own, and then the access. So I don't have to worry about picking and choosing what I see. I can just see what I need to see, and then I can cover this, cover there, and I can just support just kind of cinema as a whole, especially independent. I have a special love for independent cinema, but just branching out, and I know that requires some personal work and confidence of myself, but I also want to work and have the opportunity to connect with certain creators or connect with certain directors. I've actually had that opportunity even before, with oh my gosh, Cycles and Love in Other Spots.
Oscar.
Right.
What's the name?
Oscar Wenman-Hyde.
Oscar, yes. Oscar Wenman-Hyde. And and other direct, that was my first experience, so I wanted to shout him out. But yeah, how people have just kind of been hey, I'd love to get your thoughts on my film. I'm like, really? Okay, sure. It's just, I don't know, it's just something kind of not in a an ego way, but it's just something where I'm like, you really want me to? It's just, and having the chance to support efforts that are not just mainstream. Now, I appreciate mainstream films, but I just think there are a lot of things that go unseen. And if you've seen my channel, there are a lot of things that I feel need to be known, need to have a spotlight put on them. And so a big part of it is just having a bigger picture for what I'm trying to do, and just how that I can connect to the film community in that way.
Yeah, no, I love those answers. I think those are really solid goals. And I think it's, I hear so many people sometimes that hear me talk about YouTube. I'm sure you guys have similar thing where there's just that assumption that we want it for fame or something. And it's really not about that. It's sure that might, some sort of level of recognizability might come up, and sure, it would feel nice if I went somewhere and somebody was like, hey, I love your channel, I know who you are. But it's really more about being able to do something I love, truly love doing. I love doing this channel. This discussion is revitalizing my love of live streams genuinely, because it's making, it's really, we got people commenting, we've had about 10 concurrent viewers, if not more, majority of the entire stream. People are watching, people want to listen, people are dropping some comments. And by no means is that on the numbers of a Mr. Beast or these big people. It just feels nice to be part of a community of people who want to talk to one another and hear from one another and help to encourage one another and celebrate movies. I think that's really what it is. Celebrate film and be a part of celebrating it, be one of those personalities who celebrates it. So when I see other people who are able to do this as a career, it's really amazing, So yeah, I loved hearing you guys' answers. Darkroom Reviews popped in here to say, hey fellas, hey man, what's going on? Sophia L pops in saying, I watch you all exactly because you always try to shine a bright light on your reviews. You give everything an honest try. Yeah, thanks so much. I think that's definitely the only approach, I think, to reviewing film. You know, I think you got to be open to anything, man. I love that on my channel. I've reviewed everything from the serious, dark, gritty films, all the way to the slapstick comedy, all the way to the movie that people might say is for kids, and the big tentpole films, all the way down to the like made for $3 films. Like the three of us have all reviewed like films of all scales and television of all scales, and we've all had the chance to interview filmmakers and stuff like that. And I think that that's pretty epic, and I think that only comes from really trying to celebrate it on every level that we can. And just because it's here, and I'm sure D will get a laugh out of this, Sin popped in here saying, "Goat throat." Anna Travel says, "I love when someone accuses you of being paid by a company. Like me with my 1.5 subscribers is not getting paid by anyone. I wish hotels gave me free nights to review." Yeah, that's a really great point. It's like Disney is not paying me for sure. I've never. Other than them and it's not even them, other than the representatives who work for Disney sending me out an invite to come see a movie, and I'm one of a million emails that they sent out to come see a movie early just to get traction.
Right.
That's as far as it's ever gotten, and Jason popped in here saying, "I'll say good things about Disney. If I get a good paycheck, I'll quit my job." Yeah, absolutely, man. You and me both, bro. If Disney hit me up and they want me to, maybe I would, who knows? But it hasn't happened. I can promise you that much. Rejected Heroes Media also saying, my last comment is, what I like about you guys as channels is, well, I couldn't read for a second. What I like about you guys' channel, maybe my number one advice for any upcoming YouTubers: make videos you yourself want to watch, and if it wasn't you in front of the camera. Yeah, I love y'all. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I do think it's one of those things, man, where you got to make content for yourself. D was talking earlier, and we've all talked about like movies or videos we've done that we put a lot of editing into, only for them to not do well. The number one culprits of those for me are the videos I made for myself more than anything. And every here and there, when I get a little drunk, I'll pop it on my TV just to watch it myself. And those are my super cut videos. If anybody's ever seen those, I usually do these big compilation edited videos featuring dozens or hundreds of movies. The last one I did was like almost 9 minutes long, features hundreds of movies. And it is, all like edited succinctly to a score, a musical score that all the editing hits the beats of all the music. It took me forever to do. And that video hardly got any views, nobody, now it's been months and it's just lost in the ether. But like, I made that video for me, and I watched that video back for myself because it makes me feel something, because I love the song I chose and I love the movies I included, so it's one of those things where I think you got to do that first and foremost. And if people see it and they go, "Oh, this is awesome," it's usually going to come from a place of like being made by somebody who really enjoyed it. Any thoughts on that kind of thing from you guys?
Yeah, I think I've got to agree with what Darnell said and what you said, Perez. Like making the videos you want to make, not just making them to get the kind of clicks or the views, or like D said, like those reaction videos. More like less risk than reward as such. So yeah, I think it's just all about, because if you make videos that just clicks and views, yeah, that's great, but you're not passionate about that. You're ultimately gonna kind of lose track at some point and be like, yeah, how many times do you watch channels or see channels that you've maybe watched in the past and like, yeah, I'm going to change my content because I didn't like what I did in the past, So I think it's just about being true to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, in addition to that, yeah, because it's about like, you know what you love about film, what you appreciate, what you want to support and what you don't want to. And I think one of those things for me, I'm trying to find the balance between being, open to new things, being open to what the subscribers want, but also knowing like what it is I want to actually put out there. So another aspect of it for me is I don't know, like just taking more opportunities to branch out. Like I know, like I love doing movie reviews, but I know even with what I discuss in that, I know that I have ideas swirling around that I need to just do, and I'm putting them off because I'm just like, but they're all, and it's like there's never going to be the right time sometimes to do the things you want to do. So I think it's about also pushing yourself in certain areas and just not being. I just don't ever get to a point where you feel complacent. Just always be open to like learning. Not saying like jump to something else that you're not used to doing, but I'm saying even within this lane of film, if there's something special you want to talk about, then you should do that. Because I would say like one of my biggest videos was my review for a series called The Cook of Castamar. That was like a random Spanish language series I watched back in 2021. I was just like, I love this series, you know, and I just did my whole little spiel about it, and it just so happened to blow up. But even if I hadn't, even if it hadn't done as well as it did, it was something about the way that film connected to me, and especially as I watched certain things, just trying to pull myself out of that place I was in and just connecting to, you know, TV shows, cinema, movies, all those kind of things. Yeah, and just understand like that's a part of the journey also, like being open to just different things and just kind of learning what works and what doesn't work as you go along.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Jason popped in here as well to say, my dream would be to get screeners, and be able to do critic awards. Yeah, man, it's an amazing thing when you can get to that point or be able to get invited to see anything early or send something. I remember the first couple of things I was sent to see early were pretty bad, but there were these really small indie films that were sent to me, and I felt like, oh my God, yeah. It's not like, you know, the Warner Brothers release, and they were typically pretty not great, but like it was great that anybody was like, hey, can you watch my movie? And you know, to anybody who has that desire, I would just recommend consistently upload. Look if there's a critics association in your area, and more than anything, you can usually go online to some of these studios and look up on Google and stuff like that, like representatives, and if you can typically find some emails. And I know that's how a lot of us started. We just started sending emails to people who had no idea how we got their email. They were just like, hey, I review movies on YouTube. Is there any way I can get on your list for movie reviewers that you send out movies to? And eventually that's kind of how, like, you know, I know that's for me how I started getting things from like Shudder or from Gravitas Ventures, and eventually that was able to branch out, you know. So I highly recommend that approach. And then lastly, from Rejected Heroes, well, thank you so much for the super chat, man. He said, never stop, because if you do, you will never see how it ends. I want to see you all do great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the support, man. And then Cinematic popped in here to say Disney is paying me too much for positive reviews into the chat. And then worst reviews is the last comment, and then we're going to get into the rest because I don't want to keep these guys all day, but I really love these conversations. Are you guys still good on time? Feel free to be honest. If you need to go.
I'm okay.
Perfect. Okay, cool. He says, what you're saying about the super cuts you made is exactly my thought process with it in general. Each video I make is in the moment is mostly just for me, and if someone else sees it, cool. Yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it. Now, I wanted to touch on something that D said about like 30, 40 minutes ago now, but he was talking about evolving. And now we've talked about the really downsides. We've talked about how it messed with our mental state. And we've talked about a bunch of different topics now reading through those comments. But D, I'll start with you again. I'd love to hear your thoughts about how you've kind of handled things as you've evolved, because, you know, I think for myself, when I started with YouTube, when I look back at those early videos, like you mentioned the Venom one where I like sticking my tongue out and doing all this foolishness, I was reviewing movies in my car. You know, I didn't really feel comfortable being around my family inside and having them hear me reviewing and stuff. I was very uncomfortable with it. So I would drive around in my car and review these movies, but the editing was bad. The sound quality was bad. You know, there was minimal editing, you know, and when the cuts were so abrupt and would be like, there would be that quick moment where I was just like, and then we're in the direct, like there was always this break. And of course I didn't have that fluidity of speech that, you know, obviously we've heard me, you know, jumble my words a few times here in this stream, but like I've gotten to a place now where I can speak in a very coherent and, you know, straightforward fashion without having to use a million ums or like, you know, just consistently make mistakes. Whereas back in the day I was a mess. And I think it's one of those things too, where like, as you evolve and you get better, your standards increase, right? Your approach to things and what you want from yourself is increasing. So I would love to hear from you guys a little bit. And Dee, we'll start with you. How have you felt as you've evolved, as your standards has increased, as you've gotten bigger, as you've gotten better at this? You know, where have you seen yourself kind of have to keep yourself in check, and what do you kind of expect from yourself now compared to when you first started?
I think when I started, I don't think there were a lot of expectations, and I think that was intentional because of the way that I started. You know, I started without eyes on me, which I think was not just because of that post I saw, but also just because I think had I let people know about it from the beginning, then I would have been constantly thinking about this audience. Whereas it's like nobody knows about it. If someone finds it, then it's no one that I know. You know, it's just like I could just focus on me getting comfortable with the camera, me being okay with what I'm putting out, and so on and so forth. So a lot of it, those early days, were just kind of like learning and kind of just taking in the information and kind of growing in that sense. And then I think as I continued on, I think my main thing was I think just making sure, like, I'm a big, and this is outside of YouTube, but I'm a big researcher. I'm a big fact checker. Like, I need to have like all my I's dotted and my T's crossed, which is ironic because I'll say that like with endings of movies, everything doesn't have to like be like that. But when it comes to like what I have to say about movies, it has to be pretty on point. Because I despise misinformation and like things get spread all the time, and it's just like, can we please just find some accuracy? And I think it would be one thing if we didn't have like smartphones, but it's like the information is right there. So like my standard has always been like, I want to know what it is I'm talking about. And I don't know, just being mindful of what I'm putting out there and how I put it out there. So I think that was kind of my main standard to begin with. You know, I've never been the type to like be disrespectful or over the top. I'm not talking about an actor's body or, you know, their looks. Like there's just some things that I just feel like is bottom of the barrel, low hanging fruit. It's just like, why? Why would I do that? So the standard for myself is really, or has been, just kind of saying what I have to say, and providing knowledge and providing information. And that's why I'll kind of sneak in things about this director or, you know, this and this and that. But I think as I go along, I also am learning that I don't always have to do that. Like, I mean, not as far as the research part, because that's not going to change, but you know, where I kind of pack in a lot of information, or I'll mention, you know, what the director has done before. It kind of depends. It's not like a one fits all type situation, but for me, it's learning how to be okay. Like even like with the out of theater reviews, like that was something I would kind of do for shorts, but now I'm like learning how to do it like for an actual review, like video review. And it actually like, and it wasn't something I was comfortable with, but I realized just like how much easier it is to kind of do that. What's frustrating about it is that it pushes me to not be so structured in a sense. Like I'm used to being in the studio, I'm used to having like my notes and this and this and that. And when I come out of the theater, it's really just about like, I'll of course make sure I have the right director's name, but outside of that and maybe some of the cast, like I have to just kind of go off the cuff, and right. It's not something I'm necessarily comfortable doing. Not to say that when I'm in the studio I'm just like, you know, fake reading or something like that. It's still what how I feel, but I still want to like know that what I'm saying is correct, and I have to like, there's a sense, and I've talked about that whole perfectionism piece. So for me, it's about being okay with everything not being quite like that. Now, I don't mean I'm gonna just like throw out whatever, you know, but because even when I thought about it just now, and you know, when some of those reviews out of the theater are very off the cuff. So when I did that Joker Folie à Deux review, it was not my intention to be doing all that. But when I tell you I was heated, I was heated. Like I was not happy at all. So I was just like, there's no other way I can do this, but just to say how I feel. And on top of that, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I feel like, oh, that's what I was like. I'm missing something. I also, for that video, I didn't do a whole lot of I didn't do a whole lot of editing. I was just like, look, I have sin. It's such a frustration. But what I had to stop doing also, even with that, I'm actually glad Sin said that, because I just did a review last night out of the theater, and you know, some child was yelling as they were walking through, and that will happen where cars are going by. And one thing I kind of thought to myself in my mind, but then my mom also said it, was to not react to that, because even though it's funny, it's one of those things where like I can't let myself get thrown off by anything. It's just like say what you say and let that be it, because that's also taking time away from what I have to say. So it's more so just about being comfortable, being confident, because it is awkward to like do the reviews as people are walking to their cars and walking past. But it's like, who cares? I have a video to do, whatever. Like in the grand scheme of things, you don't know me, I don't know you. I have a video to do, and let's move it along. So it's just a lot of like just the general like confidence, being cool and calm and collected, and just not having to stick to the box or the structure that I'm used to. That's a big thing for me.
That's great, man. No, I really appreciate you sharing all that, man. And it's great to see how different but also similar our growth has been in so many ways, and kind of how you structure things and try to do things that are different, but like how there's still this undeniable growth from the first time you uploaded videos or even those first few months. Mike, what about you, man? How have you felt? Because it's interesting, man, because I remember I was the first person that you collaborated with on. And when I actually recently went back and watched our video, it was for Gravity, starring George Clooney and Sandra Bullock. And I look back at that video, and you were so different on camera compared to how you are now. If anybody wants to see, you can go to really early Mike stuff, but like if anybody wants to see like really early collaborating Mike, it's crazy how open you've become. It's crazy how much you've changed. So how about you, man? As far as you've evolved, how have you kind of like, what kind of standards have you placed for yourself? What do you find yourself struggling with as you now kind of have a higher bar for yourself in that world of making YouTube videos?
Yeah, I think great question as well, and it's great hearing about Dee's experience with the car as well, because I can definitely relate with car parks and
right.
I'll touch on in a moment. But yeah, so going back to that Gravity review, and I'm glad you've kind of brought that up, Perez, because at that point in time on YouTube, I didn't have a microphone. I just thought, hey, what? People can hear my audio. It's all good, But then you're like, well, Mike, like later down the line, have you thought about getting a microphone? And then I got one, and I was like, why have I not been doing this for the past 2.5 years, So, it's just little stuff like that collaborates into that standards question you asked, Perez, about, like, how do I hold myself to a standard? How have I evolved, and how do I kind of manage that? So, yes, getting the equipment, looking back on my videos and be like, well, actually the lighting in my video isn't the best. Maybe I can upgrade this. Or I bought like a couple of extra lights, and now I've got like this kind of lighting. So I'm like, yeah, this is a good standard through the day or through time, nighttime. It looks better, but I wish I had more, but I don't have the space to have more. So it's about managing that in terms of the financial, but also the just what I've got to work with, and being okay with that, and not wanting a bigger space or a bigger room. I physically can't have that where I am in my house, But yeah, I think in terms of being uncomfortable in front of the camera and being open, so there's plenty of times where people don't see, and I should probably put this in videos. So like when I've gone to the cinema and I'll go into my car and I'll be like, right guys, I've just gone out of this showing at this time today. What you guys don't see is when I go out the cinema, I drive like a minute away from the cinema into an industrial estate that's completely empty on the public road, right? So I'll be just sitting away in my car being like, oh, hey, so this movie was great, this is why. And then a random person will purposely walk past the car to see what I'm doing, and then they'll walk to the end of the road and then come back. So a lot of the time in my video, you've got about 3 minutes of me just sat there like that until they wander off, and then I'm like, right, okay, where was I at? Right, now I can pick myself up again. But yeah, it's about kind of what Dee said, I can not really acknowledging that too much and carrying on, but it's still kind of at the forefront. But yeah, managing those standards. When I first started recording, like I couldn't have anyone in the room next to me, like in the bedroom or a living room, like next to me. If I could hear like someone coming up the stairs, I would stop talking until they went downstairs, which is stupid because you're not gonna, they're not gonna think, oh yeah, this time 5 years ago, do you remember when you did that? Like no one's gonna remember that.
Right.
But yeah, so like now I'm more comfortable talking in front of people or vlogging if I'm out in the public. And when I made my short movie A Day in Newcastle, I purposely put the tripod like this and put my camera to record. and people avoided walking to the camera like the plague, you know. they purposely walked complete opposite directions, and I'm like, I've not got this on anyone. I've just got this to focus on people's trainers. You know, that's what I want for this shot. People's sneakers. You guys call them sneakers. We call them trainers.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's again just being open, and I think Dee said it best about not being conscious of who's around you. Just do it. They're not going to think of what you're doing, and at that moment, they might for a quick second, like, oh, what's that person recording? But then they go about their day. They've got better things to be thinking about than what you're doing. But you get, I think, in terms of managing it very quickly, I think it's just about your space, your finances. Do you really need like £2,000 cameras to make a YouTube video?
Right.
No. You know, I'm happy with my phone. And yeah, I think it's still about, I think about your own personality as well. Like, you know, like we all have everyday lives. We all know how much we pay for our bills and how much money we've got spare for our expenses every month. And, you know, maybe now and then we might be like, oh, well, hey, let me get some lights, or let me upgrade my microphone or my tripod stand or whatever it is. But then if we don't have that, we're not going to beat ourselves up and be like, right, well, we're not going to do YouTube videos till I get this equipment. We're just going to work with what we've got. So I think it all kind of comes down to the person as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. No, I loved hearing that from both of you guys. It's great to see how we've all grown. You know, I know for me, you know, just quickly on it, just like, I think I look back at those days, like I said, in my car, and, you know, it was that getting equipment over time. And man, it's crazy how dark it's gotten here, by the way. Like, it was so sunny when we started, and like there's no sun now, and it's like dark in here. I look like I'm living in Count Orlok's house. But yeah, anyway, it's really awesome to see how we've all grown, you know, and I really love this discussion and touching on the positives and the jealous days and the bad and the struggles and how it can affect your mental state and how we've kind of all navigated that, man. I really appreciate the vulnerability. And I kind of want to come to a close with this, with like a really just a question more for people who are starting a brand new channel today, which I hope a lot of people watched that in the future, whether you watch this live or you watch it after the fact, and you also have a channel that you're trying to grow. Dee, I'll start with you again. Any words for somebody who is thinking about starting a channel, has already started the channel, and any advice on what you think like they should do or avoid in doing that?
Ooh, let's see. Honestly, I'm not saying like do what I did necessarily, but I do think that, you know, whether it's actual videos or you feeling like you need to take time that's, you know, or for videos that aren't recorded or that you don't upload, I think you should take time to get comfortable with the camera. I think that's something that's very important. One thing I've noticed, and, you know, I support regardless. These are things I noticed, but I still can support a channel or, you know, like, leave a comment, whatever. But one thing I know that will disconnect me from people is when they are extremely scripted and you kind of tell they're reading. And then when they're kind of, how do I say it? I don't know, like you can tell like they're not 100%. And at the same time, I'm not saying like you have to be your perfect self to get on camera, because I think you should still push past your, you know, insecurities or the things you're not comfortable with. But I would also say like shake off the nerves, like take time for yourself so that it's like, okay, I'm comfortable with this. I'm used to this, no matter who, like, because the thing is, even when you're on camera, I don't know if it's like this for you guys, and it's not always, but sometimes there can be like, I have friends who've said this, but sometimes it's like they have stage fright on camera, even though like nobody's there. For me, it's like not stage fright, but I'm constantly thinking about if I'm saying the right thing. And so sometimes that'll stop me as I'm doing something, and I'll kind of like get kind of thrown off, you know, caught off guard and a little disconnected for what I'm doing. So yeah, so sorry. I say all that to say basically, take time to become comfortable with yourself on camera. Please, I understand this has been said ad nauseum, but please be consistent, because I feel like as much as I had done on YouTube, I still didn't know how to be consistent. I really didn't think that meant anything. And now I'm like, I try to keep a steady stream, you know, going, and I've seen the difference and the benefit. I would also say take time to learn about video optimization and SEO, because that's something that helped me out earlier than I thought it did. I've learned about, you know, how some of the stuff algorithm wise works. Sometimes you can do all that stuff and the video will do whatever, but sometimes it's important to learn about like tags and hashtags and the words you use so that it'll come up, the titles will come up, and all of that. So yeah, so I would say all of those things, and just taking the time to develop your love for your voice. I'll say that, like, develop a love and an appreciation for your voice and what you have to say, and don't waver. Don't feel like if you don't want, like, some people only do horror and that's what they do, then that needs to be what you're going to do. If you want to do anything but horror, then that should be what you know, like, whatever it is. But like, you need to stick to like whatever your lane is. Like, be okay with what your lane is, and doesn't have to look like anybody else's. There are people who have come to my channel thinking I represent one thing, and then when it wasn't what they wanted, then they dipped. But I want people here who want to be here and want to be a part of the journey and the community. So think about that as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's those are really great points, man. And to echo something there, I'll kind of sandwich my thoughts in here before Mike gives his, and then and we'll come to a close on this. But I think if you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel, the best thing you can do is just get started. Just like what Dee was saying, start getting comfortable in front of the camera. Because when you watch my videos, even if you watch my first video and then you skip 3 months and then you skipped another 3 months and then maybe even skipped a year, the difference is there, and it came from a place of just getting comfortable with myself on camera. You know, it's not something that you're going to be good at initially. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to struggle to get your wording out. There was a time where I can only make like 15, 20, 30 seconds worth of talking before I made a mistake and had to cut. And my videos in the early days were super cutty, super jumpy in terms of cuts. And now I'm at a place where, you know, sometimes I'll make mistakes, or maybe I'm moving from one topic to the next. And I'm pretty good about hiding some of those between like some footage or some images that are popping up on screen, you know. But I get to a place now where I can go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes without making a mistake, and it didn't just happen, you know. It came from like talking in front of the camera for hours. You know, we've individually, the three of us have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos, you know. And it's like one of those things where it's like it took time, it took the struggle, it took that 10,000 hours thing that people say about, you know, figuring yourself out, you know. And by no means are we at our peak, you know. We're still We're still growing. We're still finding that footing in all of that. And so it is really important to do that. And then on top of it, what Dee said, to really echo this consistency. I like to think I'm a really supportive person of people's channels, and I want people to succeed. And I feel that the empathy for them when times go rough, because obviously we've all talked here. Those times will get rough. But what I really struggle with is people who are hitting the woe is me about their channel not growing, and they're not uploading weekly. There is that part of me that's like, if you're not at least uploading twice a week minimum, I feel for you. Unless you're already established and huge, you know, one of those channels that can go away, do this big research piece. Like, one of my favorite channels is a channel called Yesterworld, and they do these big, like, almost feature length videos where they do full deep dives on like a movie or like a theme park attraction or something like that. But the videos are dense with imagery and footage and research and names and this and that, and they have all the credits on the screen for everything that they found. So it makes sense to me that it takes them months to kind of accumulate all that and edit it together in an hour and a half long video or something, you know. But if you're making content like ours, you know, 10-minute video, 15-minute video, even 20-minute videos, it really needs to come from a place of consistency. And if you don't have the consistency, you're not going to grow. You know, it's like the consistency is what gets you into the algorithm. You know, sometimes taking a little break can work, you know, because there's that part of a lot of people missing you. And then like when you come back and you do a video, they're like, oh, cool. Hey, good to see you back. You know, you might have a little influx, but once they get used to it again, if you're not consistent, then it's going to be like, well, why am I going to go to this guy? Because he missed all these other things I want, especially in the movie space. If, you know, if we miss one or two, like for instance, I probably won't see Den of Thieves 2 this weekend. I'll be honest, because I didn't see Den of Thieves 1. And I haven't really prioritized it. But I got a review up. I got reviews for early movies coming. I got reviews this coming week for one of them days and for Wolfman. So there's gonna be content. But if I'm missing like every big release, you know, and then I come out 3 weeks from now with a review for something, somebody's just going to be like, well, you know, I wanted to hear you talk about all those other things that have come out. And now it's like, oh, you're here with this. That's great. and then you're gone for another week and a half or 2 weeks, it's like they're going to be like, well, what about the things that came out in the last week and a half or 2 weeks? I just think it's a game of consistency, and you don't have to be like, I'm doing a video a day, but consistency is key. And I think I look at the three of us, and I think the reason we built audiences and those people who come back comment after comment is because we at least give them something. And even if they don't click on every video, they're like, oh, I saw that he did that, and like I'll watch the next one. But it's like, and in a world where honestly there's an influx of influencers and movies, TV, music, art of all kinds, other YouTubers, entertaining things, discussion-based things, it's really easy to be forgotten about in the mix, or to be like, oh yeah, that person hasn't uploaded in a while. You gotta be in front of people often.
Yeah.
And if you're not, it's just gonna make your channel suffer. And I think that's really important. But Mike, let's hear your thoughts on this, my friend.
Yeah, I think both of you have made great points. So kind of just to add to this, maybe what you guys haven't touched on as much is, I think for me, it's one of those things about not worrying about the views and sub count, and don't set yourself a goal as such to be, I need this views and sub by this date, because if you don't hit that, you're going to be discouraged. More likely you're going to be like, right, well, I'm going to quit because it's not for me. I've not hit my goals, and it's just, you're not going to be in a good headspace. But I think the most important one I would personally say would be, if you make videos, whether you've had one video, whether you've had 20 videos, 50 videos, whatever, I've learned a lot throughout my journey from Anthony. Basically, everything I've done a lot of the time has been from that man. He might deny it, but it's true. Or like my YouTube peers as well. But I think it's always important if you're doing a YouTube channel, when you make one video, watch it back, take a point or two from that video and improve on that the next time you make the next video. So whether it's a thumbnail, whether it's a comment about an actor or an actress, a cinematography, a negative, a positive, improve on that for next time. So then you're always going to get growth, and in that you're going to kind of build your own self-confidence to be like, well, hey, I felt that went better than last time, and the journey continues to improve. So that's what I would say on top of what you guys have said.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know if you guys do that, but I do that pretty often, where like a week or two after I've uploaded a video, I don't do it with every video, but I'll pick a video that I did last week or the week before, and I'll watch it back while I'm like playing a video game, or I'll just have it up on the side, or while I'm driving, I'll just listen to it. And I listen to how I worded things, or I'll watch a review of the same movie from a bigger YouTuber that I really appreciate and love the way that they do things. And then I'll really appreciate the way that they worded things and they broke things down, even if we have differences of opinions. And then it'll intrigue me to be like, all right, well, let me see how I sounded back to back. So I'll watch mine back. And then if there's those moments where I feel like there was a lull or something that I could work on to kind of help explain something a little bit better, or break something down a little bit better. It's not about copying them. It's more about realizing, well, I really like how this sounds. Let me see what I can improve on, not to copy it, but to kind of help refine what I do. And so I think that watching your content back, not just in the edit, but like after it's exported and on YouTube, once you're a little bit removed from the editing process, it is really important. But yeah, guys, this has been a phenomenal discussion. I mean, what a way to bring back reviews or live streams, in 2025. This has been epic. I want to say really quickly before we get to the final bits here from these two guys that D will be returning on the channel hopefully in the coming weeks for Twitches too. Yes. If all works out, we're trying to get Trey to get back on the channel so we can make that cohesive as we did with the last one. So if all goes to plan, you'll be seeing D on the channel again soon. If all goes to plan, you'll be seeing Mike on the channel again soon for The Lion King 1.5, which is the last of the Lion King films that we have to cover with Rashad G. So expect to see these beautiful faces on the channel once again very soon. But I want to give them a moment to say what they got coming out on the channel maybe this weekend, or things that they already have on the channel that just came out that they want to throw a little love out there for. So D, I'll go and throw it off to you first. Any thing you want to plug or anything you want to say here at the end?
Well, yes, first I want to say it's been really great having this conversation, especially with you both, considering the circumstances. I didn't get to say this earlier, but when Mike popped up, I remember Mike had popped up. I don't know if it was my Shang-Chi review or whatever, but he had popped up and he had asked me about, like, oh, I love your review. I did a review for this also. And, if you want to check it out, or if you want to, I don't know. I don't know if he used the word support or whatever, but basically, I thought Mike was FOS, basically. I thought Mike was definitely on some BS because someone who, I'm not being funny, someone who looked a lot like Mike, not that long before had said almost the exact same thing, like, oh, join the community. I would love to, support, and I would love for you to check out what I'm doing also, and da 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 da. And then it was basically to get, just to look at his stuff, and then I didn't hear anything else after. I got ghosted. So when Mike came along, I was just like, oh Lord, not again. So I was just like, I kind of looked, but then I was just like, I can't trust that this is the real deal. So then Anthony came along. I also thought Anthony was kind of on some BS too, because when he sent me a message talking about like, oh, we got to collaborate, I was just like, I even told him that it's still there, but I was like, is this a spam message? like, what's the setup here? Like, what's the game? And when it came down to it, no, Anthony was just like, okay, cool. Like, no, I actually want to support, actually want to collaborate. It was after I commented on his Afterlife review, and then all that led to this. And then eventually when Mike came around, I was absolutely sure, he had been properly vetted, and it was like, oh no, he actually wants to support too. So I would actually say also, just know, as far as the encouragement piece for other people doing YouTube, there are good people out there, and there are people who want to genuinely support you and what you do, and you will find your people. Because there was a point where I wasn't sure, because I hate to say it, but there's a lot of scammers, a lot of trifling, grimy, social climbing people out there, and you may have to experience that a couple of times. Just know eventually you will find your community and your people, and I can definitely say that far more valuable than just my anything YouTube related that I've done. I think being able to find community on and off YouTube has been a significant part of the journey as well. So just want to start with that. Want to start it off with that.
Be careful of the goat throats is pretty much what he's saying.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yes. Be careful of them. As far as my channel, just to do my little spiel. Hey everyone, this is the Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addicts, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And that is like the general tagline that sums up my channel. Happy New Year. I've really come a long way, and what I hope to do this year is just continue to talk about my love of movies, but also discuss some more specific things within those movies, more rankings. I also more rankings, maybe some more things with the soundtrack reviews, like what I did with Wicked. Definitely planning to do more as far as the alternative casting videos, as far as very famous films that had actors that you didn't know auditioned and almost were, a part of certain roles. Check out my Beetlejuice alternative casting video if you kind of get a feel for that. But outside of that, I just saw The Last Showgirl. I'll be doing a review for that. Just saw Better Man. Also did a review for that as well. Have some other things coming up that I'm kind of being mum's the word about. But yeah, the goal is just to continue to grow and connect with people and just be open and take more opportunities, take more risk without the reward, so to speak. We're talking about, less risk, more reward, and I'm trying to do the opposite. So please feel free to check me out, support. I would absolutely love to have you.
Awesome, man. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, great stuff going on over there, it sounds like. And checked out your Better Man review last night, and yeah, I am a little saddened that the two of you guys didn't love it as much as me, because it is the best movie in 2024, and I'll fight anybody hand-to-hand combat with that for that. But it's okay. I'll take
this. Let me just say, people, this isn't the first time Anthony has threatened me over my thoughts on a review. Like, he literally threatened bodily harm because I didn't love Avatar 2. So that's, Avatar: The Way of Water. So I'm used to this. I don't know if Mike gets the same smoke. I think I'm an easy target, but it's okay. I think he does. No. I think. No, Mike gets it too, because I was like, I don't know if it's because Mike is smaller, but yeah.
D, every video. Like, for example, I came out of seeing the Star Wars movies last year. Every time I'd message Anthony, be like, I've just got the movie. Just my thoughts. It's like, yeah, you've put me to shame right now. I don't want to talk to you right now.
Yeah, I told him when he came out of Better Man, and he was like, yeah, I'll probably give it like a 3.5. I go, I'm going to fight you when I see you at your wedding. I just want you to know. That's going to be my wedding gift.
Yeah,
But
and
it's
I'll also say,
okay.
oh, I'm sorry. I'll also say, we're gonna close this out.
No,
But I'll
you're
also
good. You're
say
good.
that I am learning to be okay with Mike being a hater as well, because I've already said plenty of times that Mike has this whole thing where because he didn't have these, I'm standing by this, but because Mike did not have these nostalgic early experiences, he is not happy about it. And I feel like there's this resentment that comes out when he talks about these old school movies. It's okay, Mike, and I've made peace with it. But I'm just saying, like, we make things work in spite of the foolishness, and there is genuine love there. So I just wanted to make that point.
The nostalgia destroyer.
Yes,
Yeah.
Emily.
exactly.
Pretty much. I feel like sometimes Mike is softer on some of those terrible Land Before Time sequels that we covered instead of the really good nostalgic pieces of our childhood. I recently saw he watched The Page Master as well
Right.
with Macaulay Culkin, and he gave it a 2.5. And I commented on his letterbox just saying this is a damn shame, and he just never replied to me. He just left me on red. But anyway, Mike, let's throw it on over to you, man. Anything you want to plug over on your channel and stuff like that. And to anybody watching my clip here and wondering why it's just getting darker and darker, the sun for some reason at 4:30 p.m. has decided to just say goodbye. I'm trying to use the light on the laptop to give me something here, but that's why I got this like vampire lighting going on. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
It's all good. Well, firstly, Perez, thanks for having me on for this live stream. It's been a blast talking to you guys, being open, and it's definitely helped me kind of realize a little bit about YouTube journey and like right now how I've been feeling, and kind of like other people's thoughts as well. And one other thing to come from YouTube that's been amazing is just the friendship I've gained from these two guys alone. I want to shout out Ryan, Jason, Rashad, other Ryan in Newcastle, Ryan Swales, Adam What the Gym, and so many more people. But yeah, in terms of what's coming up, so I've actually got a video I'm really proud of coming up on the channel shortly. It is what went wrong with the Ratchet and Clank movie from 2016. I watched that the other night, and because I'm such a huge fan of that video game series, I watched the movie and I was like, yeah, this movie could have been great, but they messed up big time on this. Mm-hmm. And again, it's a movie from 9 years ago, but I thought, like, hey, look, I'm passionate about this. I want to talk about it. Maybe it might find fellow people thinking the same. Maybe it might get 2 views. I don't know. But yeah, so that's coming up very shortly. I've got PlayStation Trading episode 3, where I've kind of taken it back to my teenage years, where I'd buy a game, complete it, trade it in, and then look forward to what I could get with that store credits for that game. It's kind of something that I'm kind of taking initiative on. And Z Talks will be returning very shortly. I'm not sure when, but hopefully I'm going to try and make that a weekly or fortnightly kind of thing.
Awesome.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, that's some great content coming from both of these guys. Definitely go give them some love. Their links are down below in the description box. Tons of great stuff. As for me, I just dropped a review a couple days ago for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which is a new video game that just came out on Xbox and PC. It's coming to PlayStation in the spring. I will say this. Even if you don't play video games, I almost think it is worth watching the cutscenes and watching somebody play through it. If you want, put it on the side or something. Troy Baker's impression, his voice work of Harrison Ford. I just want to push people even to watch the trailer. He sounds exactly like Harrison Ford, and they kept Harrison Ford's likeness. It takes place in between the events of Raiders and The Last Crusade, and it is if you were not a fan of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or Dial of Destiny, and you were an OG trilogy Indiana Jones story fan, this game is for you. It feels like it fits right into that timeline perfectly. It feels like an old indie adventure, and for those who haven't played it and want to play it and plan on playing it, I honestly think you will not be disappointed. I thought it was fun on a game level, but on a narrative level, it was so true to Indiana Jones, into what Harrison Ford did with that character. And I think what Troy Baker was able to do it honestly blew my mind. I played most of the game with a gaming headset on, and the ability to have what sounded like Harrison Ford whispering in my ear as you're traveling through these tombs and stuff like that was just phenomenal. And it puts you in the eyes of Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, and it just feels like the Indiana Jones adventure that you want. It's probably the best Indiana Jones video game that's come out, unless you love the Lego Indiana Jones games, which are great too. But I would say in terms of an actual Indiana Jones story, it's pretty awesome, and it's part of the canon now. I believe it's part of the actual canon of the story. So I think it fits in really well, and I think people are really going to enjoy that. But outside of that, Better Man is out this weekend. That's the only review I have already on the channel for a movie that's coming out this weekend. I did it a few months ago when I got to see it early. It was my favorite movie of 2024, and honestly, whether you love it as much as me or not, I do think it's a movie that's absolutely worth seeing. And going back to what we were talking about today, about the demons that we may have, the negative thoughts, I think that's part of why I connected to Better Man so much, because there's a big part about this movie about depression, anxiety, and the voices in our head and how they affect us. And I think that's part of why I really related to Better Man. And I think that it's a movie that a lot of people will probably be able to relate to on a real level. Hold on, I got a cough like a mofo. Sorry, I didn't want to leave the mic on. I was gonna keep going, but I was like, I'm gonna choke and die right now. Anyway, a big thanks to all of you guys for watching. I'll have reviews coming this coming week for one of them days, and Wolfman, I'm sure the three of us will probably be in that conversation for those movies. It's gonna be next week starts the big movie talk for some of the big movies of the year. Wolfman is very highly anticipated. Lee Winnell directed film, so I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to hear everybody's conversation. We're starting off 2025 with some movies, and let's see what the year holds for us. But there's some great stuff coming, and we really appreciate everybody who stuck around. There was like a pretty consistent amount of people coming in and out of this stream throughout the entire thing, dropping comments. Really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody. Sin said she loved Better Man. I knew I loved you, Sin.
Yeah.
And Rashad popped in here to say that he's gonna make him tear up when you were giving him some love there. Rashad will be on the channel soon enough for Lion King 1.5 with Mike of Did You See That? So definitely keep.
Can I just say it very quickly, just with Rashad, by the way, just literally very quick second. If anyone is struggling for encouragement with YouTube, as Anthony said to me before, and it's so true, check out Rashad G Reviews. A guy purely just switches on the camera, says his thoughts naturally, and he signs out. That is a big inspiration as well.
Absolutely. He is the perfect example of a dude that's like, screw all the over editing, screw anything. Here's my thoughts. Here's me as I am and my thoughts. And he doesn't care. And I think that's ultimately where YouTube is going to shine. It's just being you and being you and not letting anybody else tell you what's what, you know. And it's getting darker over here, dude. It's getting crazy how dark it's getting. I keep having to put the brightness up. It's insane. But to all the other comments I didn't get to, my sister popped in here to give me a super chat. Thank you so much, Mick. I really appreciate it. Sin says, love you too. Love you all. Stay well. Yes. Cinematic says, yo, Perez, what's the relationship between Better Man and Star Wars? Asking for a friend. They're both great. That's the relationship right there. Rashad says, damn Skippy, to all the kind things we just said about him. And to everybody else who chimed in, genuinely, thank you guys so much. Give these two some love. They got great content coming. We got content coming here. Live stream wise, every week I'm going to be having a new live stream. We're going to be getting back to the weekly live streams. Hopefully next week we'll start back, if everything works out, with one of the follow-ups to the Disney live streams of series I was already a part of. We still got to do Under Wraps 2, Twitches 2, Lion King 1.5. And then after that, I'm hoping to do more fun discussions like this, some random rambling, some one-on-one podcast discussions, and all kinds of fun stuff. And the reality is, let's be real, by the time the year is up, Movieman and Mike of Did You See That will be on this channel many more times before the year is up. So a big thanks to you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Any final words from you guys?
Well, yeah, by giving us love, give this man love. He's the one who had us on the channel. So go support this legend down here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I really appreciate it. All right, we're going to come to a close now before it gets dark over here. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it.